Hello and welcome. Today I'm in a new work-in-progress French battleship, the very creatively named France. She's still a work in progress, which means that she can significantly change, but for now she is a battleship with speed boost, and look at her go with speed boost. From 0 to 10 knots in like 5 seconds. Unfortunately it seems to mostly affect the 0 to 10 knot speed, but that's still quite a victory because without speed boost it takes her like 15 seconds. And I don't think that's even a bad case of 0 to 10 knots. So you can stop and go quite quickly on this ship. Well, at least the go part. I don't know about the stopping part. That one still feels like, a battleship. She also has some quite interesting main batteries that have 26.1 kilometer range, with only the Musashi and Yamato having more. Actually, I haven't checked the other French battleships. Those ones might also be somewhere up there, I suppose, since the Gascogne had, 24.8? Now, she gets 8 main batteries, but only 2 turrets, one at the front, one at the back. She also gets secondaries with 7 kilometer base range, which is the range which, if you remember, the German battleships used to have. So if you get advanced firing training, the secondary upgrade, and the flag, you get up to 10.6 kilometer secondaries. Which means that the secondaries should be quite usable, right? Well, maybe. I haven't really found much use for them, because unfortunately I don't seem to be able to actually get that close with the ship. You would think that, hey, you're a battleship that goes like 34, 35 knots. But there are some other problems with the ship, which I'll talk about later. In terms of other consumables, the heal is normal, the damage control party is normal. Her anti-air is okayish, but I did find that her anti-air was taken out very quickly, at least from my experience. But that might be a bit of confirmation bias based, and on top of that, she gets shot a lot because she is, first of all, a new ship, and one of her weaknesses is that she's very vulnerable to HE spam. Since I am a secondary build, because I want to try my 10.6 kilometer secondaries out on a really fast battleship, unfortunately I don't quite have the anti-air range necessary to help my friendly Shimakas over there, but I did get one plane, so that's okay. In terms of accuracy, she does feel... Okay, so the ship feels a lot like the Gascogne. She's somewhat fast, somewhat maneuverable. I suppose the maneuverability isn't that great actually, but the turrets turn quickly. But they have some accuracy problems, and since you only have 8 of them, they aren't the greatest. But the shells, for some reason, feel quite fast. Even though their initial shell velocity itself isn't like superb, I suppose that the shells don't slow down too much because of air resistance. So, the shells don't feel super slow, which is a good thing. I don't think that this battleship is a very great main battery fighter. I think she's more like... I don't know what you would say. You would think of her more like I want to say cruiser, but not really. You can spam HE. Maybe HE spam is the best on the ship. I haven't really decided. I'm mostly trying to rely on AP for the initial tests, because that one felt pretty decent too. And oh look, there's a Neptune. This is the perfect AP test, right? And she's at 16 kilometers, so we can even do a small accuracy test, right? Well, let's see. And goodbye, Neptune. Okay, that really wasn't much of a test, because I already knew what was going to happen. But overall, she feels fun to me. At least the few games I've played with her, they don't feel necessarily bad. Now, I don't know about the strength of the ship. Maybe she ends up being powerful, maybe not. She could also still be changed because she's still a work in progress. But I do know that I think it's the biggest weakness, is the fact that she is basically 32 millimeters all over, which means that you are vulnerable to HE spam. Particularly cruiser HE spam. Your deck armor in the middle is 32 millimeters, your superstructure in the middle is huge at 19 millimeters, your bow and aft are 32 millimeters, which means that cruiser HE just deals a massive amount of damage to you. And there's another problem too. You see, your some of your anti-air guns are actually your secondary guns. That is, they're dual purpose, I suppose. And this means that if you lose your secondary guns or your anti-air guns, you lose the other one too. Now, there's a bunch of anti-air guns you also have that aren't also your secondaries, but I found that I lost those very quickly as well. And things like Hindenburgs, wow, 6k damage, are quite scary now. And Moskvas, and Des Moines, and Henrys, and basically anything that has HE and is called a cruiser. I suppose 152mm HE spam wouldn't be that scary if they didn't have IFHE, but you know, what's the chance of that? Like, almost zero? Which means that HE is scary stuff. And because your armor is like 32mm all over, it's not like you're really strong against AP either. But I did find that it was quite difficult to get citadeled in this ship, at least with my normal playing. So, in that regard, you know, it wasn't as bad. But despite the fact that I didn't get citadeled much in her, she had the problem that Kurfürst has, which means that, well, if you show broadside a little bit too much, you take a lot of damage from AP. So I'm gonna switch over to some HE spam, 2 fires in this, and now I'll just try using that while putting some distance between me. Let's use that 26km range. I actually like the range thing, because what you can do is you go close, you tank a little bit, or maybe a bit too much, and then you fall back and just shell from long range while healing up. That seems quite a nice idea to me, and I'm gonna be doing that. So, planes are going for my friendly Neptune? Why would you drop a Neptune with... what? But for some reason the enemy carrier is dropping our Neptune, which is okay by me, because it means that he's not dropping on me. And considering how low HP I am, that could be quite bad. Now, I will be shelling with HE further. By the way, if you've noticed, my reload seems to be really fast on the guns, and that is actually the case. I have the upgrade that lowers your reload but increases your turret traverse, and this puts me at 21.1 second reload. I don't have Adrenaline Rush though. I'm not actually sure if I'm not sure if my skill build, which is secondaries, is actually that great on this ship, because I'm not sure if you can actually end up going close this much like you would want to, because you are so vulnerable to HE. But in this match I do, unfortunately, no Adrenaline Rush. I calculated if you're at 10% HP, with Adrenaline Rush you would have a 17-second reload on Battleship main batteries, which is quite interesting of an idea. In that case, I would recommend going like a second or anti-air build, I suppose. And oh, it's a Conqueror, and she's showing broadside, so let's fire AP. Help her along a little bit, to show her how good France is. And unfortunately all the shells went too high. But she was almost taken out. Hopefully somebody else will finish her, so that the Conqueror doesn't start getting her 5000 HP heals. Okay, good. Somebody took care of it. You know, the speed boost on this ship might actually be for running away quickly. Which, you know, people will think, hey, that's a rude joke against the French, but in this case, it's not that bad, because, you know, one of the best strategies if you're playing battleships is one battleship goes in, they tank a little, then they turn around and run away, or they, you know, stop advancing, and another battleship goes in front of them and, you know, tries to pull all the aggro off from the one battleship that went first. So, you know, you keep switching, and this way the battleship that took a lot of damage at first can take time to heal up and do all those things that, you know, they need to do. And then you switch again, and over, and like this you manage to tank more HP on both of the battleships, or all of the battleships. And in that case, having speed boost to run away quicker would actually be quite nice. I haven't tried going in reverse in this ship though, so I'm sorry, I can't help you with those numbers. I will get them for you, okay? I will get them for you. I know you want them. By the way, later you'll see her in port 2 and we'll look at all of the stats that we can see in the port anyway. I wish we had access to more stats in the port. I'm gonna start HE spamming this Musashi because the Musashi actually has a similar weakness, well, Yamato too, that she is covered by 32mm in a very large section of the ship. Now the Yamato and Musashi don't have the problem quite as bad as the France though, because the superstructure in the middle isn't as big and the middle deck armor on them is 57mm instead of 32. However, the front section of the Musashi and Yamato apparently take a lot of HE damage. That has been 6k in both salvos. And if we can get another fire since she used damage control party, that would be very nice. Now, I am fairly low HP. I have 32k HP left, I have a full heal available, and I could use it. I'm not going to use it right now, because I don't see the reason to. If I get shot, then I am going to. Okay, there it is. You know, this is used to lull the opponent into a false sense of security. They'll go like, oh, he only has 32k HP. And then I press T and go like, ah, no, I have 42k HP or more, I suppose. And that's a good fire. Unfortunately, she has fire prevention, which means that I can't set 2 fires in the middle. But, you know, some fires is still better than none. Oh, and even the Enterprise is over there. But my team is collapsing on them anyway, so it doesn't really matter which targets I pick, because I think we've already won this match. So now it's all about just trying to stat pad, right? And since this is a new ship, we obviously want to stat pad the most. So we'll shoot the ship that has a lot of HP. I'm switching to AP because that Musashi seems to just obliviously be sailing broadside on. Wow. Those shells look like they all missed, but they didn't. Which is good for me. That was a nice 8k damage. Okay, with AP now. Unfortunately, I keep aiming a bit too high in this section. I'm obviously using speed boost, as you can tell. Going closer. Another 9k damage with AP. Unfortunately, again, I didn't aim quite low enough. I think the fail to penetrate were on the turret of the Yamato. You know, that kinda makes sense considering the Yamato's turrets are quite well armored and I'm not that close. But the Yamato seems to be having a lot of trouble dealing a lot of damage to me as well, so, you know, I'm kinda okay. 13,000 damage from this one. But still no citadels. Fortunately, the game is ending in a bit, but maybe I'll get luckier. I really should be aiming lower, but I'm afraid of aiming too low on a ship that is stationary because from my experience I tend to hit the water in front of the ship quite often if I try doing that for some reason. So even though this ship has 8 guns, it's not that bad in that sense. However, she is quite vulnerable to HE spam. But I think this is it, Musashi. Goodbye. And finally, a citadel. So, this was a quite nice match, stat-wise anyway. In terms of gameplay, I don't know, 222,000 damage, 2 citadels, 5 fires, 2300 base XP, so I feel like I did my part, although number 2 is a monarch. Then again, France beats Britain, right? At least in this game. Only 2 ships sunk, but, you know, again, 3rd game. But check this, I'm a secondary build and I have 2 secondary hits. I'm a secondary build with manual secondaries. 2.7 million potential damage, so I was focus fired quite a bit, especially for a 14-minute game. But, you know, while doing so I managed to deal a lot of damage with my main batteries. Although I do think that Musashi was basically feeding me stats. 102,000 damage on her. And here's the credits and XP. I find the ship to be fun, kinda like the Gascogne. So, let's take a look at the France in port, but first let's check my upgrades and commander skills. So, I'm going Auxiliary Armaments Modification 1, Damage control system modification 1, secondary battery modification 2, which gives secondary range. Damage control system modification 2, concealment system modification 1, which lowers concealment, and main battery modification 3, which lowers reload time on main batteries but increases turret traverse time, that is. Commander skills: priority target, expert marksman, superintendent, advanced firing training, concealment expert, manual secondaries, and then preventative maintenance. What affects stats here is expert marksman, superintendent, and advanced firing training, and concealment expert. Now I'll say that I don't know if these are the best skill build and upgrades on her. This is just what I tried on my first impressions, because she did seem to have secondaries that kind of work. Flags wise, what affects stats is the secondary flag, high caliber flag, which lowers concealed reload, speed boost or speed flag, and the heal flag. I think that should be it. So let's take a look at the ammunitions and consumables. You have a standard damage control party, lasts for 15 seconds, reload is 80 seconds. Your heal is kinda normal, 28 seconds with the flag, 554 HP per second, so that doesn't feel anything special either. And you have speed boost that lasts for 180 seconds, gives 8% speed boost, so it's not as good as the French cruisers and destroyers, but the duration is as good as the French cruiser one. But you don't get access to a speed boost upgrade, so you don't get the extra 50% from that. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual stats now on the ship. Survivability, 92,400 HP, so you're the second worst one. Conqueror is the only one worse. 39% torpedo protection, which is okay-ish on this ship. Artillery, main batteries, you have 2 turrets, one at the front, one at the back, 4 guns each. 431mm, which shouldn't give you any kinds of special advantages. 21.1 second reload with the upgrade, so it should be 24 without. 35.6 second turret traverse, so turret traverse is fairly fast. This is with expert marksman and the upgrade, which actually makes me question if you do want the turret traverse thing, or expert marksman on this. I suppose you do. She does have secondaries that you can use, 7 km range, 127mm, you have 16 of these, 8 per side, and you have 3x3 152mm secondaries. They're both HE, 2 at the front, 1 at the back. Both caliber secondaries are HE spam. They have 7 km base range, so 10.6 if you get the secondary upgrade, plus advanced firing training, plus the flag, but I don't know if a secondary build is worth it. Main battery is 322mm maximum, or 322 meter maximum dispersion, so that number is quite scary high, but it's 26.1 kilometers, so you know, it's kinda understandable, but it's still quite bad. HE seems somewhat strong, 6300 damage, 48% fire chance. AP alpha damage is also high, 14,500, but it didn't feel like she had a lack of AP penetration, but you know, more experience might give us a different story, I don't quite know. Now, one thing you might have wondered, why did I use auxiliary armaments modification 1 on the ship? And the reason is that I found that it's very easy to lose your secondaries and or anti-air guns on this ship. And the problem is that your anti-air guns and secondaries are the same thing. So if you lose a secondary arm, this 127mm secondary gun, you also lose this AA gun. And this is 159 AA DPS at 6 kilometers that is tied to your secondaries. And it did feel that it was quite easy to lose them. Now, I haven't played with this upgrade, so I don't know if it actually fixes it. Your other anti-air gun is at 5.4 kilometers at 360 DPS, which is quite high. However, I found that in practice I lost these guns quite often, so I'm not sure how much you can actually rely on this anti-air. Maneuverability, 31.5 knots, so she's not the fastest, but you do get speed boost, which gets you up to like 34.5, 35 knots, something like that. 980 meter turning circle, so only Kurfürst is worse, but 18.3 second rudder shift, so that's not as bad. Concealment, 13.5 kilometers, which is okay for a tier 10 battleship. This is with the upgrade plus the commander skill. 13 kilometer air detectability, but that doesn't matter. Anything above 11 kilometer makes no difference because planes can't see beyond 11 kilometers. So let's take a look at the armor now. She has one big problem, and that is that her entirety is covered by 32 millimeters of armor. 32 millimeters of bow, 32 millimeters of deck, side plate, even the torpedo belt I think this is the torpedo belt, by the way. It's 32 millimeters. Everything is 32, and the superstructure in the middle is actually huge. That is 19 millimeters. So cruiser HE is incredibly deadly against this ship. Like, really, 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 really scary. Because they will deal so much alpha damage to you if they fire, especially from range, since they can hit the deck as well. So that is really scary. Plus, of course, Yamato and Musashi can overmatch this 32 millimeters. So let's take a look at the actual part that you care about, AP. So, this is the part that is armored, but that's not the Citadel. There is a 400 millimeter plate, 150 deck. The barbettes are also covered by a good multiple 100 millimeters of armor. And this is the Citadel. Now, it doesn't sit below the waterline. This is above the waterline, so it's a lot easier to Citadel this thing than US battleships, at least as far as the Citadel location is concerned. No, I didn't feel from practice that it was easy to Citadel, but I didn't actually get into any close range fights because I was always scared off by the multitude of cruisers with their HE spam and dropping low HP. But yeah, the Citadel is fairly well protected with 40 and 50 millimeter plates, so there is no overmatch going to happen anywhere here. I don't know how good this is against AP dive bombers though. It might be. Might be scary, but might not be. That one I need to see in practice. But the armor scheme felt okay-ish against AP, but I still felt that I took a lot of damage in this ship. Especially, you know, when I was showing a little bit too much broadside. Even if I didn't necessarily get citadeled. So it felt a bit like the Kurfürst in that sense, but you don't have the superb random 50mm armor plates like the Kurfürst has at the front and stuff like that, so the ship felt quite vulnerable for a battleship. But yeah, this is the ship, and I don't know, I had fun with her, but this is my very first impression, so, you know, it might end up being that when people learn how to play against this thing, that it's not so good at all. Or might very well be the opposite. Maybe we'll find that she is actually really, really powerful. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would like to thank the Patreons on Patreon. Thank you very much for your continued support, Nuke Zone, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.